All right, welcome back to My Wife Hates the Chargers. I'm Lyric Clark. I got my co-host Clint Jack with me today. How we doing?
Good, man. How we doing? It's a
Good,
beautiful day to
man.
be a Chargers fan.
Loving the shades.
Appreciate you.
Some primetime shades on you. Some Colorado shades.
A little knockoff primetime shades right here. We all know Oakley. We all know Oakley's the real powerhouse in the glasses industry, not blenders.
That's right. Yeah. Blender's trying to take a cut of the pie here. All right. So we're on YouTube now. You just find us at My Wife Hates the Chargers on YouTube. We're still on Spotify and all that stuff, but we're doing a little giveaway for YouTube. First 100 subscribers, one of you is going to get a chance to get this hat. I just got this hat. It's brand new. Boom. Corduroy, Los Angeles Chargers. It's a guy on Etsy that makes sweet embroidered hats. So this is the best Chargers hat I like. I haven't found
I need
another
one
one
of
that I
those.
like as much. So, all right, if you're one of the first 100, you get a chance to do this. Maybe if you're first 500, maybe we'll do a Jim Harbaugh jersey.
Do I count?
Yeah, I'll throw you in the mix. I want one of the old 90s jerseys though. I don't want like the new ones with just the number 4 and Harbaugh on the back.
Yeah, it doesn't look right, especially like just because it's like the old. I miss those old Chargers jerseys now, dude. I
Yeah.
love the new ones,
That's
but
why I kind of like this hat. It's like that old like 2000s 90s navy with the helmet on it.
yeah, that's
So
my favorite helmet, dude.
it's a sweet hat. It comes flat brim, but I like to bend it old school
Hey, you're a
style.
ball player, ball
That's right.
player.
All right, so we got the Jim Harbaugh press conference yesterday. That was quite a production. That was not like a normal
Dude.
intro press conference. They were in the YouTube theater. They had, normally it's like a table with just like a Chargers like, table cover on it and all four of them sit there. That was not this. It was like a podium, blackout lights, spotlight on the speaker. Everyone's in nice suit and tie. It was like a full production.
That was like the Angels signing Albert Pujols that one year. That's how much of a superstar Jim Harbaugh is.
Right.
It was a good one, man. I thought he got my juices flowing for sure.
Got you pumped up.
Yeah, and we're gonna have to compare the Staley and Harbaugh first interviews now. Now you got me intrigued.
They honestly were both good. Like Staley's press conference king, until the end there. Then he started to kind of fall apart, but
Yep.
he was good. He was good behind the mic. I thought it was interesting. So Dean Spanos spoke first, as usual, and he was going on about how the fans deserve this, and the fans are the customers, right? No, none of these sports leagues work without people showing interest. That's how they make money. So a lot
Right.
of people have debated like, oh, are you more pro player, pro owner? That's like a big debate in sports. Like I'm pro fan. Fans are the customers. Without us, none of this happens. So I think it's important that and it sounds like they really did. They listened to the fan base on this one, and they knew that like all 12 of us were going to riot if they did not hire Jim Harbaugh this time.
All
Like
12 of us.
it's been the decision made by the fans for months now. So
Yep.
I think he recognized that, and went on about how we deserve this. So John Spano said they interviewed 15 different candidates. That seemed like a little overkill. They
Too
probably,
too much. Too much.
yeah, they probably could have just hired the one that we all knew that was going to be the end destination and just called it good. But I guess you're doing your due diligence just in case, something doesn't work out. If Arthur Blank came in over the top with a private jet to get him back to Atlanta or something.
I would have flipped out, dude. I don't know
Yeah.
what I would have done. Um, I still wouldn't have let him walk out the building. I think we got lucky that he
Yeah,
really wanted to be our coach.
a
So
little bit. Yep.
we got
I
lucky.
I loved him. I love Jim yelling at Jim Hill that he's a legend when they had that back and forth.
Yeah.
Like, you're a
The
legend,
news
Jim. No,
guy.
Jim, you're the legend.
He just did the same thing with Colin Cowherd today too. I guess they had some beef like 5, 6, or almost like 10 years ago, and
Oh,
then he's
really?
like making jokes with them, and he's like, "Yeah, man, we're gonna have a good show today."
That's funny. I haven't seen the Harbaugh one. I saw him on Pat McAfee though.
I
Um,
just watched that too.
oh, really? You're just on it. You're just like
Yeah.
anything Jim Harbaugh, just straight into my veins.
Oh, especially at the gym, man. That fires me up.
Yeah. One thing I love that he said was in LA, the expectation needs to be multiple championships. And that's true. Like, the Angels won a championship or two when we were kids, like in '04, '03, somewhere around the '02 maybe. And
Oh,
then
too.
the Rams won a couple years ago. And if you don't keep winning and if you're not like in the mix, and the Rams had an overachieving season, but one championships is not enough in this town. You're comparing to the Dodgers and Lakers and USC. So it's got to be multiple. And it's cool that he recognized that and that the bar is not just like, let's just get over the hump once. It's like, no, let's start stacking these things.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it's everything's moving in a good direction. So I think
Eh,
this is the best time to be a Chargers fan.
Yeah, and stuff can turn around quick. Matt Money Smith, who does the Chargers, he calls the games for the radio station, stuff like that. But he pointed out how like the Chicago Bulls were like a laughing stock before Michael Jordan showed up. And then they just went on a run and they were the number one show in town for, over a decade. And same thing with the Patriots. The Patriots almost moved to St. Louis. Robert Kraft bought the team and decided to, stick him in Gillette and stay there. And then they get Brady and Belichick, and now they were the number one Boston team for 20 years. So stuff can turn around quick. And, the Patriots were competing with like Red Sox Celtics in Boston.
Right.
So it's not like there's no competition. But I mean, if you win, you win and people pay attention. But you just got to turn that corner at some point. So hopefully we're on the right track there.
I think we can jump the Rams pretty quick, man.
Yeah. People like pro football. LA is a harder city,
They
I guess,
do.
because there's so many people from other places that come here. So those people still root for their hometown teams, but you just got to win. You just got to win.
Got to win. I got a question for you, man.
Yo,
These Vrabel and Carroll and Belichick don't have jobs. I think we should try to snag one of those guys as a
as offensive
coordinator.
coordinator or something,
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Well, I'd rather have Minter than Belichick, but I
Yeah.
mean, I guess all those guys are kind of defensive coaches, so I guess that's a good point.
Yeah. It is
Even
weird that
put
they
him
don't
in the
have
front
jobs,
office.
though.
Who cares, man?
Yeah. Well, I don't want Bill
I
running the front
agree.
office, actually. But so
No, we're good on that.
one thing I thought was interesting was like, and this is kind of a common theme when a new coach comes in, whatever players, or really in the offseason for any team at any time, but like the players that get mentioned by name over the course of the early offseason, that normally indicates like who the safe players are. Like they're not going anywhere. And
100%.
Jim's been pretty selective about who he's said the names of actually. And it's basically just been
He has.
Justin Herbert, Derwin James, Keenan Allen, and he mentioned Rashawn Slater once in the press conference. That was it. Four dudes. I don't know if did he mention anyone on Coward's show? Did he mention anyone else?
No, I don't think so. I think he's just kind of talking about Derwin, Keenan, like you said, which I'm really happy about, dude. I'm really happy that
Yeah,
he's all in on Keenan because I think he needs to retire a Charger.
for sure.
And that's Justin Herbert's security blanket. So,
Yeah.
I think we need him.
In the press conference, he actually mentioned Trey Pipkins because he met him in the airport. And so I don't know if that felt like a half mention to me, like, oh well, I already met him, and we had this little
Yeah,
interaction. But on Pat
he's like, we're
McAfee, he mentioned Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Austin Eckler, and Zion Johnson, which it's risky to mention Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, and Eckler right now. I mean, Eckler seems all but gone. And then
yeah.
probably one of Bosa or Khalil Mack are sticking around.
I don't know who I'd rather have between those two, man. That's a tough choice, but I'm cool with that walking out the door because I'm seeing some Saquon talk now.
Saquon, Derrick Henry, that's been like the number one thing. Well, a couple things that he's mentioned the most of is protect the quarterback and beef up the run game. Not a whole lot of
Yeah,
tight
that's
end,
what we
not
need.
not a whole lot of tight end talk.
No, I knew you were giving me that
I
smirk
know.
for a reason. No,
No,
we want Brock Bowers, baby.
no mention of Mike Williams at all, anytime. No mention of Alohi Gilman, who's a free agent who I'd love to have back. Like, yeah, boy. Um, yeah, those two seem like they're on the rocks, but I'm surprised he mentioned Eckler, honestly.
Ah,
It really surprised me that he mentioned Eckler and then Bosa or Mack. I mean, I guess when you're naming guys on the team, it's just the obvious guys to talk about, but still, we'll see.
I mean, come on though, dude. I'd way rather have Mike Williams than Eckler at this point. Like, if we're gonna be talking about that, then I'm already gonna be pretty mad.
Unless he likes Malik Neighbors, and then that wide receiver room's too crowded. If you got Keenan, Mike, draft pick, Quentin, Josh Palmer, it's a little
Yeah.
crowded.
How about Quentin's bold statement the other day?
He's overdue for a breakout. I don't know what he's talking about.
He said, if anyone's gonna bring it out of him, it's gonna be a Harbaugh, but it's hard to envision him going over like 700 yards. Like he
Well,
reminds me of just a bigger Josh Palmer.
I'm not giving up on the guy. I mean, he had 1 year. They they barely targeted him all the first half of the year. Like they did not get him involved. I was calling for it for them to throw him the dang ball every once in a while.
Yeah,
We just, spend this first round pick on the guy and we're not throwing it to him. So there's some there's like half the battle is developing the guys, right? And that's what like the Ravens and the Steelers and the Patriots did well for so long. It's like you bring the guy in and then you coach him up and you develop him and you get him to perform. You can draft a guy, and if you have a no good coaching staff or you're not tailoring the system around this guy, then he's just a guy out there.
it ain't gonna work,
Yeah.
especially with
So
a defensive-minded guy like Staley.
yeah, I mean, we give Quentin Johnson a lot of crap. Not me and you specifically, but just Charger fans in general. And he had a couple crucial drops, that would have won us some games and things like that. But you can't give up on, he's like 22 years old or however old he is. I think he's got some time to turn the ship, get it right.
And he lit up Jesse Minter's defense in that playoff a couple years ago. So
That's
we'll
right.
see.
I'm sure they remember that. I liked when Harbaugh was talking about the Junior Seau thing on his last game as a Charger. They exchanged jerseys and he still got that jersey hanging in his house. He's playing to the crowd a little bit because he knows all the Charger fans like, want to reminisce on
Oh
those
yeah,
days. But I think it does show that he has some Charger DNA in him, and it's you know, not just a fun fact that he played for the Bolts once upon a time.
right. It's just funny to me, man. Just because we didn't draft him, like it's really he only played for us to, like fill in for Ryan Leaf, who sucked. So like I just
Weird.
don't understand why he loves the Chargers so much. But I'm in for it.
Well, we haven't really talked about this of just how much of like a California guy he's been. He wasn't born and raised
Right.
here, but you got the San Diego, you got University of San Diego, you got Stanford, you got the 49ers. These are all California. So he's kind of been, Northern and Southern California, just not right, in LA. But I think one of the questions someone asked him if he's an LA guy, and he was like, sure,
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. Like, yeah, I'll try to be, but it's City of Champions. He kind of went on that rant, but he's been in California for most of his stops. All of his stops other than Michigan, where he was born and raised and where he went to college and then coached there, but everywhere else, his other stops in the NFL obviously, but it's been mostly California, so
Yeah. Part of me feels like he's trying to bring that San Diego fan base back a little bit too.
yeah, which is good. We need that.
Yeah.
They're
We went from
still
12 we went from 12 to about 100 real quick in fans.
yeah, we're Orange County Charger fans, right? But there's
Yeah.
like we can kind of sense that the San Diego fans are kind of keeping like one eye on us. Like, if they start to perform, I'm back in. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I feel like they're still within arm's reach. They
That's
talked
I mean, for
about,
you, it don't really. No, go ahead.
yeah. I was gonna say when they started talking about the new facility and getting excited, wants to get like new equipment shipped over there and get all his stuff in line. You can tell that like the talks that he's had with ownership, it's very much like, here's my exact request, here's everything I want, and we're gonna get started on this right away.
Yeah, and that's been our weak link is staying healthy. So I'm pretty sure he probably mentioned that first for a reason.
Yeah. So the Joe Hortiz stuff, pretty cool. We talked about it after he got interviewed. It's like, okay, obviously John Harbaugh's recommended this guy. We started interviewing all these Ravens people, and he actually confirmed that. Jim did in his presser. He's, confirmed that his brother John obviously highly recommended Joe Hortiz as a GM, said he's going to love working with this guy. Joe Hortiz's resume is pretty sweet. He started as
Yeah,
like a personal assistant, intern, area scout, director of scouting, player personnel. Like he's checked like every box of the GM like lifespan to get to that point. The guy we were interviewing from the Giants, Brandon,
was it Bean?
no, Billy Bean.
What's his name? Billy Bean? We don't
I
want
don't
to
know.
play no money
Anyways,
ball.
the guy from the Giants that we were interviewing, he was pretty young guy. He's only been in the mix for a little bit and he's had a couple different positions. But Joe Hortiz, if you look at his Wikipedia resume, it's like every check leading up to GM. So this guy's paid his dues. He's done things the right way. He's been part of like a, first class organization, knows how to do it, and has the Harbaugh connection. I feel like it's going to be a really good fit. And I love when he was talking about like the Batman Robin off season and then during season we switch. That's the way it should be.
Oh, Jim Harbaugh's Batman. We know that.
Yep.
Well, I was also going to say too. I, well, I know we got three Harbaughs, but now we basically got four with John helping us out. He wants us to win.
Sounds like it. If the Ravens ever move on, there's a coordinator for us.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so the offensive philosophy stuff, and I feel like the offensive coordinator is kind of the one spot where we don't know what's going to happen, because there's
Right.
some Greg Roman talk, but we don't know if that's going to be his spot actually. But when asked about his offensive philosophy, he said we got to protect the QB, number one thing, then beef up the run game. That helps get the play action pass going. That helps get the drop back game going, which means under center, dropping back, not starting in shotgun, and being a balanced football team, protecting the football. So those are all great things. Not a whole lot of like improve the passing attack because that's just what we've relied on with Herbert throwing the ball 50 times a game. But when he mentions protect the QB and beef up the run game as the first two things, that kind of, I think we're going tackle, honestly, in the draft. We might trade back if somebody wants to move up for a QB. And I think we might get a tackle in the draft based on what he's saying. Like that's what all signs are pointing to. Unless he's trying to play like some game where he's like, "Oh no, I'm not even going to talk about a tight end, then we're just going to get this guy."
Well, I just feel like we can also trade back to get a tight end, which is, I'd be cool with that. I don't. We'll figure out the offensive line, man. Just get us some good players on offense.
Well, someone mentioned that the Ravens and Joe Hortiz has been a part of this, have done an awesome job about getting tight ends in later rounds, like Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, maybe Todd Heap. I don't remember what round he was picked in, but Ravens have had good tight ends and they haven't been
Pitta,
like first round guys.
yeah, Dennis Pitta is a good one too. I was
Yep.
thinking about him. Um, but even Likely, dude, like what round was he drafted in? Like
I
third,
think
fourth?
fourth or fifth. The other thing is, I think it's interesting that like the two teams that use fullbacks regularly are the 49ers with Juszczyk and the Ravens with
Ravens.
what's their guy?
God, what's his name? Is it Ricard?
Yeah, Patrick
Patrick
Ricard.
Ricard?
Those teams were, two of the four last teams standing. And it was pretty obvious, those are the all pro fullbacks because they're basically the only fullbacks. But Jim's mentioned in the past of like, when he went to get a coaching job, he said, "Are you going to have a down tight end blocking and you're going to have a fullback, right? Okay, now you can have the job." So these things
Yeah.
are important to him. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a fullback in the mix. And we've kind of tried that with like a tight end fullback hybrid a couple times the last few seasons and just get a real fullback if we're going to do that. Don't try to have some tight end in there. But
Bring
I think
Derek Watt
that's
out of retirement.
yeah, I feel like that's kind of the direction we're going is, more tough physical, less flash, which is
Yeah,
good. That's what wins in the playoffs. That's what wins Super Bowls, and that's what all the great teams do. Um,
definitely.
so the rumored report is that he's being paid 16 million bucks a year, which is the second highest paid coach in the NFL, right under Sean Payton, who just got hired last year by the Broncos, who came in over the
Wow.
top with that Walmart money. Who would have thought that the Spanos would pay the price for the second highest paid coach in the NFL?
Not me, but I didn't even know the number on that. I feel like that's still a bargain, dude.
I think Sean Payton gets paid 18 million a year, and Michigan offered Jim Harbaugh 12 and a half a year. So 16 was for sure enough to like not be too distracted by the Michigan thing. And I think he
Right.
was he was
Yeah.
done there for multiple reasons, but 16 million a year is pretty dang high. I wouldn't say that's a bar.
Oh,
Maybe
for
I
sure.
mean he could have used the Sean Payton number and said, exceed that and then we're good. If it could
I
have been
think
over
that's a
18.
that's a freaking bargain for us too. I think that might be one of the best deals we could ever possibly get. Because especially if you win, it's worth the money.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter.
It's not just the 16 for him though, because part of this is like the defensive coordinator, all the stuff he wants, getting his son in. So it's kind of a package deal, package investment that the ownership had to make. It's not just the 16 million, but I'm proud of the Spanos family for doing this. I think they're pretty much squashing the narrative that they're cheap. I don't know. Now that they've done this and they have
Yeah,
they have the highest paid players at like four different positions, I think we're kind of past that now. Especially with the son. I think John Spanos, I have good feelings about him moving forward.
yeah. It kind of sounds like he was the one who wanted to pay for a coach. So
Yeah.
um, maybe he had to talk his pops into that. I don't know.
Just like it's time, it's worth
Uh,
it. Yeah, he's in his ear maybe.
yeah,
I mean, he's probably more locked in on like how the fans feel and kind of the social media thing. Um, it was just time. Like we couldn't do the same thing we've been doing. He talked about that. Like, let's go back and look at what we've done the last few times that we've done this. What I don't want from him is he seems like pretty involved like day to day of like decision making on players because he's like, president of football operations. And I don't think that's a position that the owner should have. That feels sticky and
no.
that normally doesn't work out too well.
That guy probably never even played football, dude. That's my problem with the whole like let your son into the organization, like all
Yeah,
this stuff. Like, dude, just find someone who knows football and let them run it, dude.
right.
Because you're not going to be successful if you don't know football and you're trying to do all these moves.
Yeah. If he wants to do like facility stuff, and obviously he's got to do the coaching hire stuff, the GM hire stuff, that's all good. And then just let them do their thing. Um, I don't know if you've noticed this. I saw it pointed out with Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. They have the same initials, JH.
Yep,
Joe Hortiz also JH. So we got the coach, the GM, the quarterback, JH.
you forgot one.
Who's that?
Uh, our new strength coach. We got four of them.
Well, his name's Ben Herbert.
Ah, all right, never mind.
But we got another Herbert, and then we got a couple other J's. We got John Spanos and we got Jesse Minter. So a lot of J's going around here. A couple Herberts in there.
All right, I like it. I like it.
So it's fun.
Just stack as many Harbaughs and Herberts as you possibly can, and let's see how
Yeah.
we do.
So here's the expectation for the staff. Mike Devlin, who's coached at the Ravens and the Texans, to coach the O line. Jesse Minter to coach the defense. Jay Harbaugh is probably going to be coaching the safeties because they're keeping
Okay.
Ryan Ficken to coach special
Yes.
teams. So we're stoked on that.
Thank thank goodness. I think that's a move the fans wanted a lot too. That was
Yep.
the best I've seen our
We were
special
like,
teams look.
yeah, we were universal on that. And good thing that ownership was like, hey, this guy, we've sucked at this for a long time and now we're really good at this. Just let him keep doing it.
Yeah.
So then Greg Roman is involved, but he doesn't have like a position title yet. A lot of people want him to just be the run game coordinator. That's kind of the trend right now. So don't be the offensive coordinator, just be run game coordinator because he's been with the Ravens, the 49ers, Bills. Just do run game and then we'll hire a different OC. I don't know who the OC is going to be. If it's not Greg
Me either.
Roman, and it
Yeah.
sounds like Kellen Moore's gone because he's
He's out.
interviewing around.
I think the Eagles already got him.
Oh, that's right. Yep. So they got to figure that spot out. And they're not putting out like we've interviewed this person for offensive coordinator. They're not really announcing that, I think. So that should happen sometime
Right.
over the next week. I'd be surprised if it lasts longer than a week. So we'll figure that out. If it is Greg Roman, it's not the complete end of the world because Harbaugh's an offensive minded guy and he's going to be pretty involved with the offensive scheme and execution. So don't panic if it's Greg Roman, but if he's involved at a smaller capacity, can be more detailed with the run game and then get a guy who can just, be a better play caller, then hopefully that's where we're at.
Yeah. I mean, I trust it. If he's in the building, I trust that he's going to help us win at this point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm just glad that we're not going to have another short passing game offense. We're actually going to let it rip.
Right. We'll run it, establish the run, open up that deep play action. I think that's kind of the
Right.
the overall game plan. You want to talk
And
draft
on
for a
this,
minute?
yeah,
So, like I said, it sounds like he cares most about the O line. So, if I had to guess right now, I would say we're either drafting a tackle, probably Joe Alt, or trading back for a team that wants a quarterback, pick up some more assets because we're going to try to rebuild this thing. And the more
yeah,
draft picks we have right now is probably good because this is the most familiar Harbaugh is going to be with the college players coming in. He's recruited a bunch of these guys, coached these guys. So maybe that's a good advantage, just pile up some picks. But he hasn't mentioned tight end other than the importance of a tight end blocking. Did you see the report about the Broncos potentially willing to trade Patrick Surtain to move up for a quarterback?
for number one pick.
Just to trade up for a QB. They didn't say number one
Okay.
pick, they just said move up. And so the Broncos have the 12th pick right now. So trade Surtain, move up from 12 to get a quarterback. Do you think, I mean, obviously a tackle is going to be there at 12, but would Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors be there at 12? So basically, if they're trading up for the fifth pick, they're getting a QB. So Marvin Harrison's probably off the board, and three quarterbacks are off the board. Then we got the sixth pick with the Giants, who already have Darren Waller that they've paid a bunch of money for. They could use a receiver probably. The Titans, who have a Kongwu, who's good young tight end, they could definitely use a
Yeah,
receiver since they traded AJ Brown. You got the Falcons, who drafted Pitts, and they don't need a receiver probably since they have Drake London. They're probably going to go defense or maybe quarterback if they don't like Ritter. That's a weird one. And then you got the Bears at 9, and they have Cole Kmet, who's an awesome young tight end. They're probably going O line if they're taking quarterback with the first pick because they got
yeah,
DJ Moore. So, and then the Vikings, who have TJ Hawkinson, and they're probably going defense or a quarterback if Kirk Cousins is gone. And then it would be
right.
then it'd be Chargers. So if we traded back with the Broncos, which normally interdivision trades don't really happen too often in the draft.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
I was
would
gonna say
you
that.
would you move back from 5 to 12 to get a tackle or, maybe the second or third receiver, or maybe Brock Bowers if he falls, it's a risk. But then you get Patrick Surtain, and we don't really have a number one corner right now.
Oh wow, we would get Patrick Surtain. I was gonna say if we're trying to help them at all, don't do it. But if that
Yeah.
would help us more than it helps them, they're gonna have to develop a quarterback. We get an instant All Pro cornerback like right away,
And
easy.
still a top 12 pick and probably some more compensation, maybe a later round pick thrown in.
That would that affect our cap at all? What kind of deal is he signed to?
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have to do a bunch of work. So, well, he's still probably on a rookie contract. This is only his third year, right?
Oh,
Second
that's
or third
true.
year. So, I
That's
mean,
true.
they'd have to pay him at some
And
point,
he's
but
pretty stud, so
probably worth it. So
I
good
think it's
things.
worth it, dude.
Yeah. I would be down for that. I would take Patrick Surtain. I would take a tackle at 12 and get more picks later in the draft or next year. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So
I'm down with that, dude.
these coaching hires, we've talked about it a bit, but Belichick, Vrabel, and Ben Johnson don't get a job. And that was like three of the top four candidates, probably. Because Antonio Pierce
Yeah.
stayed with the Raiders, Gerard Mayo with the Patriots, Dan Quinn with the Commanders, Brian Callahan with the Titans, Raheem Morris, Falcons, Dave Canales, Panthers, and then Mike McDonald, Seahawks. Three or four of those guys, like, if you were to do the musical chairs with coaches in the beginning, Mike McDonald wouldn't be one. Dave Canales would not be one. Brian Callahan and Dan Quinn probably weren't the obvious options. I mean, I didn't think there was a scenario that Belichick, Vrabel, and Ben Johnson weren't a head coach.
Yeah, and I think it's nuts, dude. Even the fact that Pete Carroll was trying to get the Chargers job and he ended up not getting the job, I think that's pretty nuts.
Yeah, Pete
Um,
Carroll too. So Pete Carroll was kind of like maybe he's staying with Seahawks as like an advisor. So maybe that's the thing there. And Ben Johnson
yeah,
said he wanted to stay with the Lions to, try to get back and get to the Super Bowl, get over the hump, which I think is cool. Like you didn't get the job done. Stick around and try it again. But you also need to strike while the iron's hot when you're a coaching candidate, because if you have a bad season next year, now you don't get to be a head coach, you're not making that big boy money probably ever.
right.
So that's the risk in sticking around. But I'm surprised Dan Quinn got a job. Again, it's the Commanders, so it's not like Belichick or Vrabel really wanted that job. Um,
Yeah, that seemed desperate.
yeah, I just would not want to be involved there. So weird musical chairs. Belichick probably goes TV. Vrabel probably maybe just takes a year off, kind of
Yeah,
scouts
kind of
it out next year.
figures
Because
out his
next
scheme a little
year,
bit.
yeah, next year there's going to be, 6 or 7 brand new openings, and he'll get to probably be the number one candidate and take his pick.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, man. I think Belichick's age has something to do with it 100%. I mean, he's
Well, he's
72,
grumpy,
so
grumpy old guy who's expensive, and he's coming off like 4 bad seasons in a row. So yeah,
right.
he's
He
probably the
doesn't
greatest coach of all time. But if he wants GM duties, that's probably why the Falcons said no.
and it just makes me wonder how much say Tom Brady had in like offensive guys that they drafted back in the day. Like because he obviously is not a very good drafter, so there's no way that he knew who the guys were.
Yeah. Anyways, coaching stuff's weird. I'm happy we don't have to worry about that. Hopefully for the next decade if things work out
Yes,
well.
sir.
Let's talk
Yep.
about the championship round real quick. Give a little Super
Yeah.
Bowl preview. So the Lions and 49ers, a lot's been made about the Dan Campbell decisions, and I actually don't have as much of a problem with it as most people do. Um, Going for it on fourth down, that's just what he does. That's what he does. And that's the way it's been, and that's why they've won a bunch of these games. I thought objectively the only bad decision he made was that run on third and goal and then calling the timeout right
Oh,
after at the
dude,
end of the game.
that was so bad.
Objectively a bad
Even
call.
yeah, you got to
There's no
pass
way
the ball
around it.
there, dude.
Because you don't get
I
that,
mean,
you don't get the touchdown there and you call the timeout. Once you call the timeout, that's the game. You just lost.
yeah. I mean, you're only down three too. It's like pass
Yeah.
the ball, save your three timeouts, kick it deep, and then they got to at least punt it. You never know what can happen. So,
And they probably
I
could have
mean,
gotten a stop and gotten the ball back with like a minute left and had a shot. But you just got to throw the ball a couple more times there. Or throw it on third. And if you don't get it, you can try the field goal if you're not confident that you could punch it in. But that was a bad one. He almost made another really bad decision, which Staley's made this decision before, but right before halftime, you have the ball, you're about to score, and it's a 4th and goal, and Staley's gone for it and not gotten it. I'm pretty sure that happened
Yeah.
at least once or twice. And
Oh
Campbell
yeah.
kept the offense out there. He was flirting with going for it, and it's like, no, this is the decision where you kick the field goal, take the points going into halftime. Because the
Yep.
whole thing with analytics and going for it on 4th down, especially when you're right, 4th and goal basically, is if you don't get it, the other offense has to go the length of the field, and the odds of that happening are pretty low. But if you do that right
Yeah.
before halftime, the other offense doesn't have to do that. It's halftime. So that's pretty much half the battle. So he almost made that one, and that just would have been stupid. But um, if Josh Reynolds catches either of those 4th down throws, which one was easy catch for a pro. The
Oh,
other one
dude.
was the other one was catchable, but not the easiest catch. If he catches
Right.
either of those, the Lions probably win, and we're praising Danny Campbell for going for it and being aggressive.
It's funny, dude, because all that happened, and I was like, "Yeah, is Brandon Staley on the coaching staff now? Like, what the heck is going on, dude?" Uh, but I mean, I agreed with it, dude. I was like, dude, the Lions haven't done like been here in years. Like, just
Yeah,
go for it,
go
dude.
for it.
Just send
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I was with it, and that's how they got there. So you just got to keep riding with it. And the whole thing is analytics is you're either got to be all in or all out. You can't like pick and choose your times, which,
Right.
I believe in momentum, and I believe in like, reading the moment and trying to make a decision on that. I think that's important, but
For
at some
sure.
point you're the Lions and you just gotta take your chance and go for it. So I was fine with those decisions.
And that was the way they played all season, so I really had no problem with it whatsoever, dude.
Yeah. Ravens Chiefs. So the classic narrative with the Ravens has been if you get a lead on them, they can't win from behind. Lamar's just not built that way, and it turned out to be true. Everyone likes Lamar, yada yada, but the Ravens shut out the Chiefs in the whole second half, and they couldn't get points to take a lead. That was surprising to me.
Dude, that was ridiculous. I'm just so mad that the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl, dude. I cannot stand it.
It's terrible. I'm still mad
It's so
about that.
bad.
The Ravens could have won that game so easily. They didn't score a single point in the second half, the Chiefs, and they only had 19. So that's a winnable game. And I think the Ravens just panic. It's like, oh, we don't have the lead. We can't keep running the ball. Like we got to throw it and be aggressive. And Lamar had some really bad throws. But if they just stuck to like their bread and butter and kept running the ball the way they normally do, just as if they had a lead, they would have won easily because they're capable of putting up like 40 plus points a game.
No doubt in my mind, dude. I'm flipping my camera on. I completely agree. I just don't know how the Ravens just abandoned the run like that, man. I just don't get it at all.
Yeah. All right. I have this Mahomes legacy thing I want to throw at you. So you got to bear with me on some NBA talk for a minute.
All right, let's hear it.
So in the 80s in the NBA, you had a bunch of legends and a bunch of them won championships. You had Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Dr. J, Moses Malone, Isaiah Thomas, James Worthy, Kevin McHale. All these guys won. This to me is like the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Eli, Ben, Phil era of quarterbacks, like that golden age. And then the 90s came around in the NBA, and you basically just had one dude that won all the championships, Michael Jordan, right?
Yep.
There was a couple exceptions, I'll get to it, but Mahomes is basically Michael Jordan. I'm not the first one to make this comparison or even compare this type of idea, but Mahomes is like halfway through Brady's legacy, and the Chiefs are on like this 6-year run. He's not even close to Brady's legacy. He would have to do double this and then a little bit more to touch Brady. So it's not close to that. But if you think about play style, the star factor with Mahomes, it's pretty similar to what Michael Jordan had. Um,
Right.
if you think of all the quarterbacks in the AFC right now, we got Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence. If you include the NFC guys too, there's Hurts, Goff, Jordan Love, looks like he might be a dude. Dak Prescott's on the rocks, and then Purdy we'll see in the Super Bowl if he's going to be a dude or not.
Yeah.
But this in the 90s is like the Charles Barkley, Clyde Drexler, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Gary Payton, Patrick Ewing, Dominic Wilkins, Reggie Miller, all these guys that were like perennial all-stars, but never could get over the hump of beating Michael Jordan to get a championship.
Right.
There's one guy that got championships in the 90s, not named Michael Jordan, basically. They got multiple championships. Hakeem Olajuwon. And he only
Oh
got them,
yeah.
he only got them when Michael Jordan retired. in 94, 95, back to back. So who out of this group is going to be the Hakeem Olajuwon of these AFC quarterbacks, the Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence? Somebody's got to step up when an opportunity happens. Maybe it's when Kelsey retires. Maybe Mahomes has an injury that takes him out for a year, but somebody's got to step in when the opportunity presents. So maybe it's when Andy Reid retires and then there's, a delay before Mahomes gets back on top. But there's going to be a few years where there's an opportunity to get in there. And I feel like the Chargers are positioning themselves really well to have Justin Herbert kind of be that Hakeem Olajuwon to slip in when this Michael Jordan guy steps down for a couple of years.
We got to strike while the iron's hot, man. We got the right guy to do it. I would say it's pretty comparable, like a Derek Jeter too. He's kind of the Mahomes of baseball.
Yeah.
So I mean, it took the Diamondbacks to take him down. So I think I don't know, man. It's just gonna be tough to get past them. But once we do, it's gonna be freaking legit, dude. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it's gonna happen.
It's going to be great. The other thing is Shaq won right after Michael Jordan was done with Kobe. And I always thought that Phil was going to be the guy that would, hey, I always thought like once Peyton Manning and once Tom Brady and Drew Brees retire, then we're going to get a championship. But it ended up being that Tom Brady outlasted Philip Rivers. So that,
Yep.
who could have anticipated that? But there's going to be a
that too
couple
well.
years in Mahomes' prime where it doesn't happen for him. Somebody else has got to get in there. Kind of like when Peyton Manning and Tom Brady had a couple off years and then Ben Roethlisberger stepped in, got a couple
Ugh.
rings. Maybe Herbert's that, or maybe it's, at the end, who's going to come after him. So anyways, it's been a great time, been a great week. Social media is going crazy with all this Harbaugh stuff, and I'm excited to see what the
Yes,
rest of this
sir.
draft turns into.
Dude.
All right,
It's
guys,
gonna be great.
subscribe to the channel. First 100 get a chance at the
Get one of those
Los
hats,
Angeles
baby. Get one of
Chargers
those hats.
corduroy embroidered hats. Then maybe we'll throw in a Harbaugh jersey once we hit 500.
Yes, sir. That thing looks legit. I need one of those. Where'd you get that bad boy?
Etsy. I'll put the link in the comments.
Whatever.
All right, bro. Later.
All right, big dog. Have a good one.
You too.